The invitation came on a Tuesday. Thick envelope, gold foil trim, elegant embossed letters that smelled faintly of perfume and importance. The kind of invitation you'd expect to a senator's gala or a royal garden party. I wasn't expecting it. Amanda, my granddaughter, hadn't called in months, not since the holiday dinner, where I accidentally used her fiancé's dead name, a slip she never forgave me for. I'd mailed a handwritten apology the next day. No response. So when the envelope came, I felt hope bubble up like old champagne. I sat down at the kitchen table, turned on the reading lamp, and carefully opened the flap with a butter knife. Inside was a tri-fold card adorned with pastel roses tied in a satin bow. I felt my chest warm at the sight of it. She remembered me, I thought. Maybe we've turned a corner. But then I read the names on the envelope again. Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan Reynolds. Jonathan, my husband, dead for 12 years, buried under an oak tree with his favorite fishing rod. And me, no mention. No Mrs. Helen Reynolds, no Grandma, no Helen. Just a ghost of a name belonging to a man who no longer breathed. My heart sank. I opened the card. The message was flowery formal. Amanda and Clay Cordell invite you to witness their vows. A celebration of love, legacy, and family. Family, I scoffed. Not a single handwritten note. No scribble saying, "Can't wait to see you, Grandma," nothing. Just an address, a dress code, and an RSVP line. I felt invisible. Not forgotten, no forgotten would have been kinder. This felt like erasure. For a long time, I sat there at that table. My fingers grazed the edges of the envelope like they could rewind time, or maybe change the words. And then, something inside me hardened. I stood up, walked over to the small safe in the back of the pantry, turned the dial, and pulled out the brown folder labeled Estate. Inside were the papers I'd kept updated religiously for the past 5 years. My lawyer had reminded me often, "Mrs. Reynolds, make sure it reflects your wishes." And up until that moment, it had. Every penny I'd saved, every bond and life insurance policy was going to be divided among my son, my daughter-in-law, and Amanda. I had even included a separate letter, one of those heartfelt ones, reminding Amanda to always chase kindness, not money. I tore that letter in half. Then I picked up the phone and called Harold Myers, my lawyer. "Harold," I said, calm and steady, "I need to update my will. Today." There was a pause. "Everything okay, Helen? I got an invitation," I said. "Apparently I don't exist." He didn't ask more. He just said, "Come in at 3. I hung up, walked back to the table, and looked at the invitation one more time. A voice in my head whispered, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Amanda didn't know how they addressed it. But then I remembered Christmas. I remembered her skipping my birthday 3 years in a row. I remembered her scrolling through her phone at dinner while I asked about her job, her hobbies, her dreams. I remembered always being the one to reach out, never the one anyone reached for. This wasn't just about a missing name on a card. This was about years of being treated like a relic, a servant, a backup babysitter, a memory of a woman they once loved but now merely tolerated. I put the invitation back into its envelope and set it on top of the fridge. I don't know why I didn't throw it away. Maybe I wanted to see it up there to remind myself I hadn't imagined it. By 3 o'clock, I was sitting in Harold's office, sipping lukewarm tea as he typed up a revised will. "Are you sure?" he asked gently. I nodded. "I've given them enough of me while I was alive. They won't miss me when I'm gone." And the strange thing, I didn't feel bitter. I felt free, like I had taken back something I didn't know I'd lost my voice. As I left the office, I stepped into the late afternoon sun. The sky was soft and golden, like the wedding invitation, only this time I was writing the ending. People don't become invisible overnight. No, it happens slowly, like a painting fading in the sun. One day, you're the center of their world, and the next, you're just someone they wave at out of obligation. That was me. A mother, a grandmother, a shadow. But it didn't start that way. When Jonathan died, I had just turned 51. A heart attack, sudden and cruel. One minute we were laughing about the grocery list, and the next, I was on the kitchen floor trying to remember how to do CPR. The ambulance came too late. That night, my son Michael cried in my arms like he was 10 again. He was 27, then newly married, barely settled. I wiped his tears and promised, we'll get through this, together, and we did. Or rather, I did, for both of us. I moved into a smaller house to free up cash. I cashed out half of my retirement to help him with the down payment on his first home. Just until we're on our feet, he said. I never asked for it back. When Amanda was born, I was the first one at the hospital. I held her tiny hand in mine and whispered, "You'll always have me, little one." And I meant it. From then on, I was their safety net. Babysitting when daycare was too expensive. Driving Amanda to ballet and recitals. Cooking dinner when her mom was working late. Every birthday, I handmade her cake, lemon chiffon, her favorite. I missed one the year I had pneumonia. Amanda didn't call. Still, I kept showing up. They didn't call it help. They called it just what moms do. They didn't say thank you. They said, "We really need you this weekend." They didn't see sacrifice. They saw convenience. But I excused it. I told myself love was about showing up, not being noticed. I told myself Amanda was just young, that one day when she had kids of her own, she'd understand what it meant to pour yourself into someone else day after day without needing applause. But that day never came. Instead, she became distant. First emotionally, then physically. The texts became shorter. The calls stopped altogether. I'd scroll through Facebook and see photos of her graduation, her new job, her vacations, and I'd learn about her life like a stranger watching through glass. Once I called her to say I missed her. Her reply, "Grandma, I'm so busy. I can't call everyone all the time. Everyone." That stung. I wasn't everyone. I was the woman who rocked her to sleep through colic. The woman who worked weekends so her parents could afford piano lessons. The woman who once walked 3 blocks in the snow with a sprained ankle because Amanda forgot her science project and needed it by 8 a.m. But again, I forgave it. I told myself, this is just how kids are now. Self-absorbed, distracted, glued to phones and screens. It wasn't until that Christmas dinner 2 years ago that the crack became a fracture. She and Clay came late. They didn't bring anything, no wine, no dessert, not even a holiday card. Amanda was on her phone the entire time. When I tried to show her a quilt I'd been working on, something I thought she'd treasure, she barely looked up. "Oh, cute," she said. "Is that for Etsy or something?" No, it was for her. I'd spent 40 hours on it. Every square had a piece of her childhood stitched into it. Her old recital costume, a scrap of her baby blanket, even part of the dress she wore to prom. I tucked the quilt back into the closet that night. Later that evening, as she and Clay got ready to leave, I asked gently if she wanted to take leftovers. She laughed. "No offense, Grandma, but Clay's mom made us truffle risotto. We're good." I stood there holding a foil tray of ham and mashed potatoes, while my granddaughter, a girl I once sang lullabies to, walked out without a glance. And my son Michael barely noticed. He had his arm around his wife's eyes, glued to the TV. Not once did he ask how I'd been. Not once did he mention the check I gave him the year before to cover Amanda's student loans. $12,000. He didn't even say thanks. I realized then that I'd become something else to them, useful, but not loved. They didn't see me anymore. Not the woman, not the mother, not the grandmother. Just the support beam in a house they'd long stopped decorating. So when that invitation arrived, and my name was missing, it wasn't just a mistake. It was a message. And for the first time in years, I heard it loud and clear. People talk about the things that hurt them, what was said, what was done. But sometimes it's the things that aren't said that break your heart. After Christmas, I decided to stop trying so hard. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't send Amanda her usual Valentine's Day card with the chocolate truffles she loved. I waited to see what would happen. Nothing did. Months passed in silence. I filled my days with walks around the neighborhood puzzles, tending to the garden. I tried to pretend the quiet was peaceful, but deep down, it gnawed at me. Not because I missed them, though I did, but because I realized they didn't seem to miss me. Then came Amanda's bridal shower. I wasn't invited. I saw the photos online, pink decorations, champagne flutes, a tower of cupcakes. Amanda posing with her mother and soon-to-be mother-in-law, both dressed in floral dresses. The caption read, "Surrounded by the women who shaped me." I stared at that sentence for a long time, not because I disagreed. Her mother and Clay's mother were both there, smiling with their arms around her. They looked proud. But I had shaped her too. Maybe not in the way Instagram shows off no matching outfits or spa weekends, but in the ways that matter. I shaped her with 6 a.m. school drop-offs and chicken noodle soup during the flu. With late-night pep talks and early morning birthday pancakes. With love that never asked for anything in return. I didn't comment on the post. I didn't even like it. I just logged off and sat on the porch, staring at the rosebush Jonathan planted years ago. It was in full bloom, defiantly beautiful, even in its old age. A week later, I got a call not from Amanda, but from her mother. "We've been meaning to ask," she said. "Would you mind helping us out with the rehearsal dinner setup? You're so good at organizing things." That was it. No apology for the shower, no mention of the photos. Just another request to be useful. I smiled through the phone and said I'd think about it. But I already knew the answer. I wouldn't be helping. Then came the wedding dress appointment. Amanda posted a video of her saying yes to the dress surrounded by friends and family. Again, I wasn't there. I was watching from my couch, wearing the same cardigan I'd worn the day she was born. And the most painful part, she didn't even look for me in the comments. She didn't call to say, "I wish you were there." She didn't think about me at all. Still, when the wedding invitation arrived, misspelled name, and I almost convinced myself to go. Almost. I stood in front of the mirror one evening, trying on a soft lavender dress I had bought months ago just in case. I had even bought matching earrings, simple pearls, and a small clutch. I looked at myself, my graying hair pinned neatly, my lipstick freshly applied, and tried to see what they saw. Why had I become invisible? Had I let it happen? I thought maybe if I just showed up one more time, it might remind Amanda of who I was. Maybe she'd see me across the reception hall and run over her eyes, lighting up like they used to when she was little. But then I remembered the bridal shower, the Instagram post, the phone call asking me to help, but never asking how I was. And I realized something heartbreaking. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. I had taught them how to treat me by always being there, even when they weren't. The next morning, I called the florist and canceled the bouquet I had ordered. It was meant to be a surprise gift for Amanda, white peonies and yellow roses, her favorites. Instead, I donated the arrangement to the nursing home down the street. The receptionist cried and told me how rare it was for their residents to get flowers for no reason. But it wasn't for no reason. It was for me. It was for every time I showed up and was overlooked. For every birthday I remembered when they didn't. For every Sunday dinner I ate alone. For every moment I held my tongue just to keep the peace. I was done making myself small. They could have their perfect wedding photos. They could have their tables lined with distant relatives and smiling strangers. But they wouldn't have me. Not my presence, not my name, not my legacy. The wedding came and went without a word from Amanda or my son or anyone in the family. Not a call, not a text, not even a leftover slice of cake. I didn't attend, of course. On the day of the wedding, while guests clinked champagne glasses and took selfies in floral arches, I sat on my porch with a cup of lemon tea and watched the rain tap quietly against the railing. It was peaceful. For once, I didn't feel like I was missing something. I felt released. A week later, the photos started rolling in. Friends and extended family posted endless snapshots, Amanda in her gown, Clay smiling beside her, everyone dancing under twinkling lights. In one photo, I spotted my son Michael holding a glass of wine and laughing beside Clay's mother. The caption read, "Surrounded by those who matter most." It didn't hurt. Not like before. No, by then, I was too far gone for hurt. What I felt was something sharper, clearer. I'd spent years trying to matter to them. Now they would learn what it meant to be forgotten. 2 weeks after the wedding, I asked Harold, my lawyer, to begin the paperwork. Not just for the will, but for the full estate transfer. I had made my decisions carefully. My modest home, still half paid off when Jonathan passed, was now fully owned. Its value had nearly tripled over the years. I'd also received a small life insurance payout from his policy, nothing extravagant, but enough to grow into a meaningful sum with careful saving and decades of frugal living. And every penny of it was going to someone else. You see, about 6 months earlier, I had started volunteering at a local shelter for women and children. I read stories to the kids while their mothers met with job counselors or therapists. It was the first time in years I felt needed but not used. One of the women Tasha reminded me of myself when I was younger. Quiet, exhausted, determined. She had 2 boys and worked nights cleaning offices downtown. She never asked for help, but always said thank you when I gave her a ride or packed a snack for her kids. So I made a decision. The house would go to Tasha and her boys. My savings would be split between the shelter and a literacy program I'd quietly supported for years. The only thing Amanda and Michael would receive a letter, not out of anger, out of honesty. 3 months later, I passed away peacefully in my sleep. No drama, no long hospital stays, just a quiet night, an old book on my nightstand, and my favorite blanket tucked beneath my chin. When Michael and Amanda showed up at Harold's office, they expected a standard will reading, a division of assets. Closure, maybe. Instead, Harold opened a folder, adjusted his glasses, and began, "To my son, Michael, you were the love of my life the day you were born. I gave everything I had to help you build your life. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being a person in your eyes and became a utility. I forgave that more times than I should have. But in the end, I had to choose peace. I hope one day you'll understand what it means to feel truly seen. To my granddaughter Amanda, I loved you more than I ever thought my heart could hold. I sewed your dresses by hand. I rocked you through fevers. I remembered every birthday, even when you forgot mine. You forgot me in your celebration of family. And so I remembered that when making this will. To Tasha and her boys, may this home be your new beginning. May it be filled with laughter, safety, and hope. You reminded me that kindness still matters. This is not a gift. It is a thank you for seeing me." Michael sat in stunned silence. Amanda broke into tears, not the loud, dramatic kind, but quiet, confused ones. As if the weight of everything finally landed all at once, they left the office without saying much. Later that evening, my neighbor called to say Michael had driven by the house. He didn't stop. He just stared at the front porch for a while, at the flower pots I used to water every morning, then pulled away. They say funerals are for the living, not the dead. I suppose that's true. Mine was small, modest, just like I asked. No dramatic speeches, no photos blown up on easels, no slideshow of memories set to piano music. Just a few old neighbors, a few friends from the shelter, and a local pastor who barely knew me, but spoke kindly all the same. Tasha came. She sat in the back row, tears quietly falling onto the coat she borrowed for the occasion. Her boys stood beside her, holding hands, their eyes scanning the room as if looking for someone who might explain why an old woman had given them a home. Michael and Amanda didn't show up. Not that anyone expected them to. The news of my will had spread through the family, like wildfire, first whispers, then outrage. There were calls to Harold's office, angry voicemails. One of Amanda's friends even posted a vague comment online about being cut off for no reason by a bitter old woman. But Harold didn't waver. My wishes were clear. My reasons, though painful, were sound. After the funeral, Tasha approached Harold with a trembling voice. "I don't understand," she said. She barely knew me. Harold looked her in the eye and replied, "She knew who you were." And that was enough. Tasha moved into the house 3 weeks later. She kept the rose bush. She didn't repaint the front door. She told her boys the story of the woman who used to live there not as a fairy tale, but as a reminder. "A kind stranger helped us," she said, "because someone didn't see her, and we did. That was all I ever wanted to be seen. I didn't need trophies. I didn't want applause. I just wanted to know that I mattered to someone somewhere. And I did. Maybe not to the family I gave my life to, but to a new family who understood the value of presence, not just presence." Michael sent one letter after I passed. No return address. Just a simple typed note. "I'm sorry, Mom. I thought you'd always be there. I didn't realize you were already gone. I didn't respond. Couldn't, of course. But if I had, I might have said this: I was always there. That was the problem. Sometimes the hardest lesson is not in losing love, but in letting go of the hope that someone might finally give it. I gave them everything, and when it mattered most, they forgot me. But I remembered. I remembered myself. I remembered that legacies aren't built on guilt or obligation, they're built on intention. And in the end, I didn't choose revenge. I chose meaning. I chose to give my story a final chapter worth reading. And that chapter no longer had their names in it. What would you do if your family forgot who you were while you were still alive? Would you forgive? Or would you let go? Share your story below. You never know who might need to hear it today.